Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Hot Mess Podcast. I'm your host, John Fay, with hosts Jordan Ezel and Allison Silbovsky. We're a podcast by students for students. Every week or so, we try to do some different topics. And this week, we have some topics relating to the last year of COVID. So we all want to talk about just how our lives have been affected during the COVID pandemic that's been going on around the world. So I'll pass it off to one of you. Overall, how would you say this year it has been in hindsight? Like, did you ever expect it to be how it's been?
Well, okay, so I hate using this word because I feel like it's so like overused, but like unprecedented is like one word that's just like, I think it just sums it up like all around. Like, I don't know about you guys, but like I have like my Snapchat memories on, and seeing life just like 2 years ago, 3 years ago, is just kind of crazy. It's like something we've never expected to see. Like, I know so this is a little like a tangent off topic, but like I saw that, what was it, 3 years ago in 2018, I was a senior. Yeah, I was a senior in high school, and it was the walkouts because of the gun violence, the response for the Parkland shooting. And 3 years ago today was the walkout that like my school and like all the schools not hosted, like participated in. So that it's just crazy to see that was 3 years ago or 4 years ago, something like that. And now we're in like a pandemic and everything going on now. It's just something like you just don't expect it to see. And every year it's just something you'll never expect it.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like this year has just been a lot of growth in a lot of places. Personally, like a lot of mental and physical growth. I feel like I've thought things that I didn't think were possible at the beginning of this year, or that I thought weren't possible, both kind of blew my expectations out of the water. Like I remember when all of this was, happening, and there were rumors around Temple closing, and I was in a different full-time position at that time where my company was extremely against us working from home. Like wouldn't even think about it. If anyone even brought it up, like it was not talked about. So when they were talking about how they were going to let us all work from home for a week or two, I just didn't believe it. And like when Temple shut down, or went moved classes online, didn't really believe that either. I remember one of my coworkers made a comment about my face during that meeting, because my jaw just dropped and I looked not happy, and I was like, well, I don't really want to work from home. I don't really know, like I don't and it's just crazy how we used to be making fun of COVID-19, just thinking that it was just a joke, and, Venmoing each other, whatever, for COVID or Corona, or like, and just what it's been now is insane.
I know I went to, so this time last year, when it sounds bad now saying it, but this is like what happened. My friends and I went out right before they were like about to send us all home. We went out for like basically our last party.
Yep.
That could have been our last party of college. And we went to this place, and on the walls it said like Corona and chill. And looking at it, we thought it was so funny at the time. We took pictures. We're like, haha, Corona and chill. And now just like, wow, like that was like maybe the day after it was announced, like a global pandemic and everything. And we were just like, haha, that's so funny. And now just like, wow, time like changes things.
It just does not feel like, sorry, John. I was gonna say, it just feels like way more than a year, but also not at the same time. It's weird.
It's been really weird for me, just because, I mean, we're all in the communications field and I'm a journalism major. So, it's a profession that, to me, I do better when I'm like around people, especially with like interviews and writing articles and things like that. So it has been a little challenging for me. But it was also the fact that I had transferred this semester before all of this happened, so I really only got a semester and a half out of Temple. So I feel like, other than the countless hours at the tech center just to use their computers there, I've like really just, I don't know, I feel like I kind of missed out on Temple. But it's been a weird, it's been a weird time for me, just because I think we're all social animals, so we all want to go out, see people, and not having that option for the first time ever. Like, I think a lot of people started to realize that they were taking that for granted. I'm one of those people. I mean, once things are, back to normal, I definitely want to see my friends a little more, see my loved ones a little more, see my family, my girlfriend. So yeah, it's I feel very lucky. I think we're all very lucky that we've all been, for the most part, pretty healthy throughout all of this. And my family's healthy, all my friends are healthy, and yeah, it's going to be something that we all look back on when we're older, and we're just going to be like, that was crazy. That was a crazy time. But we're also going to look back, and hopefully the healthcare professionals now will, they'll have a better idea of how to handle something like this. Because I think at first, nobody was expecting this thing that was going to shut down the world, which is effectively what COVID did.
Right.
Most places you went, everything was shut down. And hopefully, if anything like this ever happens again, we'll have a better grasp of how to deal with it.
Yeah. I think that's that you brought up, we had to kind of learn to adapt, because we are very social. By nature, humans are very social creatures. Because I remember in the beginning of the pandemic, everyone was I could never just stay in my house all the time for 2 weeks. That's crazy. I'm gonna go insane. And people were going insane for 2 weeks, the first 2-3 weeks of everything. And now it's you have to adapt. And I know I personally was I'm gonna go crazy if I don't see people. I know I got a job at my grocery store during that time, because my parents and we had the conversation. We decided that was the best for us. But now you're just not seeing that many people, but you have to kind of adapt to it, and you have to learn okay, even though I can't physically see a bunch of people, you're growing mentally so much, because you kind of have to make up for that in a way, and be all right, well, I'm still here, you still got to chug along. So
And I think it's been cool seeing the way that people have gotten around that. We all are very social. I think it's funny, the introverts are probably woohoo when all this happened, but us extroverts were just kind of oh no. But I just remember all of the Zoom calls, drinking with friends and just playing random games, whether it was what was it,
Jackbox games. Yes.
Yeah, that one was pretty big, just finding ways around it. And it's just been very interesting to see, one, how people come together or separate in a time of need. And just what we've all learned about ourselves and what we can and can't handle, and all of the social justice new things that have come up this year as well. It's just been a lot. But I do think that it's very progressive. And when people say, oh, I want to go back to normal, there's no going back to where we were before. And personally, I wouldn't want to. We've learned so much about a lot of things this year that I don't want, I want to take this year and use it as, okay, we took it, we learned, how are we going to take this to continue to improve our lives and being nice and kind to one another.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of people just, COVID was just kind of the icing on top of the cake this year. I mean, we had all the Black Lives Matter protests, we had everything that went on with the election. So it was just 2020 just felt like one bad thing after another. But yeah, it's something that you can look back. Remember, everybody was saying 2020 hindsight or something like that, and it's we can look back at it now and just it's, even though there's a lot of stuff that still needs fixing, and everybody has different opinions on what that means, but I think the general consensus is just be better to each other, have more equality for people in general. There's definitely a lot of things that have to go on with police in this country and politics. I mean, there's so much wrong with the political system in this country right now. It's disgusting to me, and hopefully we can all look back at that and learn from it. And as we move on, we'll take the lessons from that and just be okay, let's not have that happen again. Let's not have this happen again. We're just going to be very, I feel like I'm repeating myself now, but it's like we have to make the best of a situation like this.
Right.
This was, I think, for a lot of people, the hardest time of their life.
It's a time that no one ever really prepares for.
Mhm.
Obviously, you don't prepare to have to go through something like this, like a disease that's going across the entire world. No one prepares you for that. So it's something that definitely like we're gonna look back on and like, wow. And I think everyone has changed. Like, I don't know about you guys, but like I'm not the same person I was a year ago.
100%.
And I think I've changed, but I've changed for the good. And I hope that everyone else also feels that way.
Mhm.
And like took that time to really like get to know yourself in a way that you may never have had that opportunity for. And that's at least something I'm personally grateful for. In like out of all of this, like I was able to really like understand myself and get to know myself more.
Yeah.
Because you just have the time to.
Yeah, exactly. I think this was like kind of like a forced period of reflection almost for a lot of people. And there's a lot of good that comes from that and a lot of bad that comes from that. I mean, there's a lot of people that just don't do well being isolated the way that we've been. But, unfortunately, there was really not a lot that could be done about that. But no, I agree with you, Allison. It's like you really get to kind of like look at we almost had quiet time during this because it was just like, okay, I'm by myself, for the most part, and I'm able to kind of like look at my life, look what's important to me. I mean, I've mentioned this in the podcast before. I'm like looking at like another career path right now, just as an extra thing because I had the time to think about that during this time. So that's like a good thing that you can take out of a bad situation.
Mhm.
I was
Yeah, I
wondering.
think something that kind of really taught me this year is that you can't take anything for granted. And like if you really want something, that you need to make that happen for yourself, or if you want the most out of your life, you have to do that. So like I took a major risk quitting my full-time job and taking an internship where I wasn't like going to be getting full benefits and everything, but I'm so glad in the long run that I made that decision because I'm better off for it now. And like I'm going to be where I want to be in my career a lot sooner than if I was to just keep on to that fear and not like make that jump.
And I did the same thing. And you know what we also got out of that? This podcast. Because had we
True.
not taken that risk, I would not have met the two of you and we would not be doing the show right now.
So I know we've said this like a ton of times, but everything happens for a reason, and
Yeah.
just you got to take those risks sometimes because they're gonna pay off. And I don't know, I'm a believer of everything happens for a reason.
I
Me
am too. It's hard to remember that sometimes, but situations like this really kind of ingrain it in your brain that like, things are meant to happen for a reason. We're all very lucky. I mean, we're all getting a higher education, even, it's not the best of circumstances, but I mean, there's people that have no access to education. We're all healthy for the most part. We got a lot to be happy about. I had a question for you guys related to this. What is your memory of like the last thing you remember right before everything got really weird last year? Like do you have like a specific event that took place and you think back of like, this was like the last normal thing that happened to me?
I actually do. Yeah. So the day that what day was it? I think it was the 12th, March 12th. That was the day that the CDC like announced, and like the World Health Organization announced that it was a pandemic. I used to work for the Temple News, not the Temple News. I do the Temple News now. Temple Update. And I used to make their topicals, which if you guys do you guys know what a topical is? That's like, so on the news station, that's when they say like coming up at like 10 o'clock, we're going to show you an inside look of Reading Terminal, whatever. So I was making one of those, and I used to do that. And I was doing one for the March 13th show that they had. And my video was saying how, the CDC just announced like COVID-19 is a pandemic and everything. So I was editing that video and it had to be up. I had a deadline and they're like, it has to be on social. Like, come on, we got to go. And I was like editing this video ferociously. I went to Blaze Pizza because the Rock Climbing Club was having a fundraiser that day. So I went there, and I remember sitting at my kitchen table with my roommates, eating this pizza, like frantically trying to get this video edited so I can have it sent over for like critiques and everything. And that's when we got the email saying that Temple University is like closed. And like in that moment, like time just stopped. Like I was like everyone just stopped. It was like, forget the video, not like everything changed. And I remember like sitting there like, oh my gosh, like I just like hung out with a bunch of people at like Blaze Pizza. And just that day, it was a Wednesday night. I was like, what do we do now? Like, what's gonna happen? Like, do I finish this video? Do I not finish this video? The video didn't end up going on social media, if you guys care. But that's like, yeah, that was like the last memory. And like when I found out that, I think that was the moment I realized like, shit, this is bad. Like, pardon my language, but like,
Right.
this is bad.
Yeah.
For me, I remember, like I said, I was working in that full-time job, and we came in, and like, there have been rumors, and we'd all been talking about it this entire time, like since January. And our CEO had a message that we all sat down and listened to. And like, that's when they first were saying, okay, everyone's going to be working from home. And I just was in complete disbelief. And then like, similar, we got the email from Temple, and I don't know if I just thought it, if I was just in denial, but it just didn't really seem real. I don't know. It felt, I mean, everyone else lived it too. So I'm not the only person that had this experience, but it was just something that you didn't think would ever happen. And I kind of thought about my one professor who only had classes, who structured her class with in-person discussion. And immediately was like, oh, how is that going to work? So I was a little scared on that one, but
Yeah.
I think it really just opened my eyes when the company that was refusing to let us work from home, was like, all right, you guys aren't coming back to the office. We're going to send you home early, make sure that all of your stuff works. Here's how to get everything online. And I remember all of us like making sure that we were all together, being able to log in and everything. And me just thinking, oh, cool. Like I'm just getting out early on a Friday. No.
Yeah. My memory, like I still think back to this, and I just remember thinking, like, we weren't preparing for a year of this. Like I had the idea of like, okay, like it was around, it might have been today last year. I don't remember. It was like right before St. Patrick's Day is how I remember this. And again, I was thinking, like things started shutting down and everything like that. I thought it was going to be like 2 weeks. Remember they were saying 2 weeks to slow the spread.
Right.
And we're a year into it. I
I left my plant in the office and it died.
Oh,
Yep.
poor plant.
Oh no. So the memory I have was picking up my brother from Millersville. I had a bit of a road trip almost with my other brother. We went to Delaware to pick up my girlfriend because where she lives is not that far from Millersville. It was like maybe like an hour and a half drive from there. And we're all sitting in the car. We're talking about how crazy this is. And I specifically remember we were listening to like Irish music because it was like right before St. Patrick's Day and my family's Irish. So I grew up like listening to this stuff, and we're driving, talking about how crazy this is. We get to my brother's apartment, and I hadn't really interacted with a lot of people at this point that had like masks on and like didn't want to get near you. But his roommates were all there at his place, and they were all masked up. And I was just like, we were all standing in a circle around each other, like very far away, like very distant and everything. And then we took him home, and then I didn't see my girlfriend for 3 months after that because she lived in Delaware, and just, I didn't want to risk it. And I missed her birthday.
Yeah.
And it's just, that's what I think about. That was like my last normal moment, was that little road trip I had with everyone. And then everything just really shut down after that. It was just one thing after another, just like, this is shut down. This is shut down. My old job that I'm not going to say their name, but there was a retail job, and they treated their employees like garbage. And we stayed like weeks after everything had still shut down. Like they were forcing us to stay there, didn't supply us masks or anything like that. So it was just like, once they were like forced to shut down, and I was just like, yes, like, okay, a little vacation. And then months went by and months went by. And yeah, it's weird looking back on it now, because I mean it's been a year now. It just kind of flew by.
It's like I know like we talked about like, time kind of stopped in that moment and things didn't seem real. And that's such like a feeling that like of course we all like experience, but that's something that we can look back on and like tell our children. Like it's it's something that they hopefully, I hope, will never understand what kind of it feels like in that moment. And that's kind of like I know I've heard from my parents when they talk about like 9/11, like when they found out like time stopped and like it like things seemed unreal. And that's like our moment of like our generation. And I don't know. I like don't know where I'm going with this, but like it's such a insane thing to think about.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
every couple, like 10 years, there's something that just happens, whether it's like an earthquake or a tsunami or 9/11 was a terrorist attack. It's something that like it becomes almost like a little point in time that we'll be able, like people can look back on. And I was too young to remember 9/11 really happening, but like I hear, I still hear stories because Allison, like you, I'm from New York originally. I had multiple members of my family in the city that day, some of who were like
Yeah.
close to the tower. So it's just, I've heard from like my aunts, like they saw the planes going into the buildings and things like that. And it's just like that's horrifying. Like I've never seen something really like that.
Right.
And it just reminds you how like you have to really trying to find the right words here. You have to really like be thankful for the time that you have. And this is one of those moments that we just lived through. And I mean, it seems to be going, in the direction of being normal, but it's too soon to call it. And there's so many people I'm seeing right now that like they're just they're going back to normal. I was just on campus a couple days ago and I saw like half the people weren't wearing masks, and it's like I don't know. It's a little early. We're not.
Yeah.
That's like I know the weather's getting nice, but like continue to social distance, continue to like wear your
Yeah.
mask even when you're outside. Like please, like the pandemic isn't over, COVID's not over, COVID's not going anywhere. And just because you're vaccinated, like think of other people as well. You can't just, go partying every weekend. Like think it's a lot about the social good in this. And don't be selfish is the best way to explain it. Like just because you may be safe, like you're helping other people. You're not helping yourself, it's other people. You wear the mask to keep other people safe, keep your germs to yourself.
I do feel like we're through the worst of it.
Mhm.
I think we are like getting over that hump of it being really bad, but at the same time, it's not just going to magically disappear overnight. And it does make me feel a little bit better thinking about how like Temple is doing an in-person graduation and talking about how, the goal is to have in-person classes, but none of that stuff is really going to be able to happen unless people continue to follow these guidelines. And,
Yeah.
because I just found out the other day my friend's roommate tested positive. Like I hadn't been around them, but it's still, people are still being affected
Mhm.
by this. Like I don't know if people are just thinking, oh, it's been a year, so it's over. Like it's not over yet. It's, even though Biden's saying, I don't know if you guys saw this, but Biden was saying that he's trying to get every adult eligible to get the vaccine by May 1st. So
Mhm.
eligible and getting the vaccine are two different things.
Yeah.
But like the hope is to have normalcy by July 4th. And I feel two different ways about it. Like it makes me excited because I am ready to go back to working in the office and like being in person. And I'm just so sick of like my apartment. I just need to get out. But at the same time, makes me a little nervous. Like, is that really the timeline of what it's going to be? Or am I going to end up getting disappointed when it's July and I'm still locked up in my apartment? Or, like, I'm like, I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
It's like just think like this is going on around the world. So Biden may be saying for America, like we're, planning July 4th to be back to
Right.
normal, but Italy was in the same place like a few months ago. They were like, yeah, back to normal. And my friend right now, she's in Italy, she's in Rome studying abroad. And today is basically their last day of freedom because the majority of the country, but like this one little remote island of Italy, is like in the red zone. So they're going back on complete lockdown, like in the beginning. Like they can't leave the apartment unless it's to go to the grocery store. You can't go to anyone else's. You can like get in trouble with the government, like full lockdown until Easter, I think it is.
Wow.
So I think people here just need to remember like that can happen to us, like in the snap of your fingers. It can
Mhm.
happen.
I mean, think back to the winter this
Yeah.
past year. Like things were getting a lot
Right.
worse before they were getting better.
And I'm surprised, like because we were still working at our old job back then. And I remember talking to you guys about it and just like are we should go back in like a full lockdown. And
Right.
I personally thought that that's what was going to happen when Biden came into office. And I mean, it obviously we know it didn't happen, but things did get worse before they got better.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
I guess time will tell
Yeah.
and we will see.
I'd like to hope that, you know, everybody who can get vaccinated will get vaccinated. The people will, you know, take the extra precautions so that we can go back to. I would like to, you know, I'll admit it. I want to go back to normalcy as soon as possible. So, you know, if it could be by the summer, great. But you know, again, time will tell. I can't look into the future and tell that. But yeah,
Yeah. Hopeful, but not expecting anything.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And you know, this has been the year of Zoom and phone calls, and I think we're going to transition into our another. Sorry, I can't talk today. We're going to transition into our other topic of the day, which is tips and tricks for virtual and phone interviews. And
Yeah.
I know we've all had experience with that in the last year. So,
Mhm.
do one of you want to like talk about your experience with like Zoom or phone interviews?
Mhm.
Yeah, I'll just go first. So a big thing about this year that I talked about was like taking a risk and doing and transitioning into a new job. So when I was looking for a new job, I remember being in the point where most companies wanted to do a Zoom interview with me. So I would just, wear a nice shirt, make sure that, I let my roommate know, hey, like I'm about to go in an interview, just so there was like no distractions or nothing. So my biggest tip for that is just make sure that you're still dressing to like be prepared. Sign on to the Zoom call maybe a few minutes early just to make sure that, because I always like to be a few minutes early to interviews anyway, so it makes it nice to even just get yourself in that mentality of, even though yes, like you're interviewing through a computer and through just a screen, you're still making an impression, and you still want to make sure that even though you're not in the same room as the interviewer, you still want to keep up with those polite and respectful tendencies of that an interview should go. So those are kind of my biggest things. One of the weird things that I remember is one of the companies wanted me to come in person and check out the office. And this was maybe around June, like May, June. So it was still really like not super great. And I felt uncomfortable with that. So I was honest with them. I just said, I really appreciate that you would like me to come in and see the office. Although at this moment I don't feel very comfortable coming in person due to everything that's going on. Would it be okay if we did like a virtual tour? You can walk me around. And they were end up coming comfortable with that. I did find out that there was like a scammy company, so I didn't end up going through with it anyway. But just making sure that you're still like, if you do come into a situation where if you're not comfortable going in person, seeing if there's alternatives, because right now people can, you got to be just respectful and cautious about the time.
Yeah. Also, another thing with like Zoom interviews, a lot of people, like I know right now I'm in my bedroom, and that can be like typically, I'd never want like an employer or like a professor to like see my bedroom like that,
Right.
but that's something we've had to like become accustomed to. Like I know I moved my room around, so the main focus, instead of it being like a sleeping area, it's now like a work area where I also happen to have like I sleep.
Mhm.
But just like also creating a space for you that you can get work done. And then another thing is backgrounds. As you can see, like this is my background and this is what I always do. So just making sure like one, it's respectful. Two, also it's your personality. Like, give you a little tour of my background right here. This is like a poster of like this is a calendar of a bird, but this is like an artist that I really like. Then we have like an advertisement right there because I'm an ad major. And then just
Naturally.
like a fun saying that, word play and everything, like bird, frog, pop, whatever. But like it's simple, but it also like if you want to know something about me, like this is also about me.
Right.
So I think that's something to keep in mind. Like don't just do a white background or like a plain wall. Like you can make it look like you. Just make sure like it should also be professional.
Mhm. I think a really cool thing that you don't get in in-person interviews that I kind of was able to do while doing Zoom interviews. I kept their website and their social media up on another tab. So while yes, you should definitely make sure that you're doing research on the company before you have the interview. If there was something that I wanted to mention specifically, I could go back and look at their website right then and there and pull it straight from. And I felt like that kind of helped me in a few interviews. So that one was really cool. I'm trying to think of some other tips and tricks that I used.
I know like
Was
I like going off that, like I would have questions that I wanted
mhm,
and I was able to have it right next to me and just like
written
glance
down.
over
Yeah.
to like see if I needed like a talking point or whatever. So I always thought that was very
Yeah.
helpful in my
Yeah, I
interview.
did the same thing. Like asked written down questions or things that I wanted to make sure that I brought up about myself on the interview.
Mhm.
That was really cool. So now that we're still kind of in this realm of doing Zoom interviews, I definitely suggest doing these tips and tricks.
Also, another thing is like, Jordan, you mentioned like making sure like you're wearing like a nice shirt because they're seeing like your shirt. I found like get fully dressed, don't be
Mhm.
wearing like sweatpants or pajama pants on the bottom, even though like people joked about like you can wear sweatpants and like a button-down shirt and everything.
Right.
But I found just like getting in the mindset of like it makes you feel more presentful, I guess, or it just makes you feel better when you're like fully dressed, like in the full either suit or like, I don't know, I wear jeans all the time, but like, making sure
Right.
you're not wearing like sweatpants, you're not in that mindset when you're like in an interview. It'll just make you feel better.
Because worst case scenario, you end up having to get up and they see your sweatpants. And while they're most likely in sweatpants as well, it's not the best look, but it also just being in a full outfit does make you feel more dressed to impress.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. It puts you in the right mindset. I think that that's something that a lot of people have had to learn from this is, at the beginning, I mean, even like last semester, I was one of those people. I was guilty of if I was in a Zoom classroom and you didn't need to keep the camera on. I still had like the sheets over me in bed, like just listening and just waiting for her to be like, John, do you have anything to say? And I'd be like, yeah. And then I'd just turn it back off. But with job interviews, I think it is very important to, still keep that demeanor of professionalism, even though, we're all in this weird situation. It really reflects well on you if you come dressed correctly, if you're not coming in it like half baked, really.
Yeah.
Like talk to them as if they were right in front of you. I think is very important.
I think another big aspect of online interviews was emailing too.
Mhm.
I ended up emailing a lot more with the correspondence, whether that be like the HR person or someone that I was interviewing with directly, just because we weren't going to have that in-person interaction. So there were sometimes things that we just needed to work out, whether that was like setting up the Zoom link. So just making sure that you're going through and rereading before you send, making sure it sounds professional, and just really like that is another part of the interview. Like one time I had an teacher in high school who told me you're always you're always auditioning, you're always interviewing. And that kind of stuck with me. So it's just like thinking like from point A to point B, from every interaction to you first setting up the interview to you thanking them after the interview, that entire time that is an impression. And so you should just make sure that you're presenting yourself the way that you want to be presented from A to B.
Yes, absolutely. You want to like really sell them on yourself, like really make yourself stand out amongst other people, because there are going to be those people who go to the job interview in sweatpants over Zoom.
Mhm.
It's like, be a step above those people, be a standout character to them, and you're more likely to get the job.
Right. Mhm. And another thing, we talked about interviews, but if you are a Temple student, specifically a Klein student, we just had our virtual career fair this past week. Oh God, my stomach, I don't know if you guys heard that, but
I didn't.
so we just had our virtual career fair, and that's something that that was something that I've never done before, and I did go to the virtual career fair, but also just making sure you're professional during then. I don't know how you guys feel about career fairs in general, but I know me
I went to the one
personally.
last year, like the one that ended up being in person, but
Me
Yeah,
too.
the last
Yes.
I know personally every career fair that I've been to, I kind of not tank under the pressure, but it's a very like social anxiety ridden
it's
situation you're put in.
overwhelming.
It's very overwhelming, and you end up kind of, at least I feel, you're fighting for time.
Mhm.
And I've never successfully, felt good at a career fair, but just a virtual one, like I thought it was a great experience. And I think if one thing we should take away from like this whole time, we should stick with virtual career fairs. Let me tell you, it was great. Like you
So what
signed up
type
for
of,
what?
I was gonna say, yeah, I was gonna like say, like, walk us through what it was like for
Yeah.
you. What type of questions did they ask you?
Well, so I'll start from like the beginning. So basically you sign up for, they either had like group sessions or one-on-ones. The one-on-one session, I did a few, you get a 10-minute slot. Like, so it's just 10 minutes of just you and the recruiter or whoever's at the fair. And basically like you can just talk to them and give them your pitch. I felt it was like very easy to have like just a normal conversation. You didn't have like the like 2 minutes where you needed to like quickly get in your like elevator pitch before the next person swoops on in. You had the
Right.
full 10 minutes. Um, like I was able to have like a conversation, be an actual human being with this other human being. So yeah, I thought that was great. Some types of questions that like I was able to ask was just like, can you tell me about like something going on? Sorry, I just lost my train of thought. Can you tell me about like, what's life like in your company right now? How has not COVID changed, but like what are some new things you guys are doing as a result of this? And everyone was just very welcoming, as opposed to before I felt like it might not have been as welcoming.
Yeah. Like I remember when I was there, I just felt a lot of like I knew that I would only had so much time and I took the afternoon off. So like my time was even more valuable. Like I was like, oh man, like I, need to make the best out of it. And half the time is spent waiting in a line or like, so that sounds nice that it's just you have a set time with that person and you can get that in, like that real good connection.
Yeah, it definitely was. Except the one thing was the group sessions. I wasn't sure how exactly that was going to go. It was a little weird just because the two that I went to, it was basically just like everyone had their cameras off. You only turned it on when like if you had a question. It was a little weird, the group session ones,
Yeah.
but the one-on-ones I definitely thought was a lot more beneficial than the like a actual career fair would have been.
We're talking earlier about, finding the silver linings and things. I think that this is a situation that a lot of people should be taking advantage of, just because, we don't know if they're going to want to go. Sorry, they might not go back to doing all virtual interviews after this. So, I mean, this is a great opportunity to really take advantage of kind of the easiness, and I feel like there's more opportunities that open up when it's something that's online. You have more, because I remember I was at the career fair last year, and it's like you're only as prepared as what you're bringing with you. If you're doing it online, I mean, you have the whole internet next to you. I know, Jordan, you said you can like have a tab open on something. So here it's just like there's a lot more, because like last year I just had like whatever paper I brought with me, and that's kind of it. And
But
you
if I
just
didn't
have
know
to
a
go off
background thing
memory.
about a company,
Yep.
like I would be kind of SOL. But if I can just pull it up real quick,
Yeah.
it's nice thing to have.
Exactly. So yeah, it's a good situation, and I hope that they do look at it as something that is going to be more effective, just for future reference, even after things have gone back to back to normal. Maybe this is something that they'll keep, just because they'll see how easy it was for students to get jobs. I'd like to see if they keep tally on who was able to get jobs and see if it was more effective than the in-person ones.
That would be like a
That
cool
would be,
study that you can do like a little down the line.
yeah,
Because
definitely.
working from home is like it's not going to ever go away now. I think that there will be, some type of hybrid between working from home and in person, like in the office. But it being online is it's way more of the future from this past year than anything. So yeah, I definitely think it'd be really smart for them to keep going on with online interviews, online career fairs. It's just what we kind of really become accustomed to.
Yeah.
It's not great that this is what it took for all these companies to realize that, but yeah, it's like there's a lot of jobs that you don't need to be there every single day for. And while that's good and it shows that you care about your job and everything like that, if it's more effective and cost effective for a company to have you just there maybe like 2-3 days out of the week, then I think a lot of people are going to stick a lot of companies are going to stick to doing something like that.
Right. And it
Especially,
improves the employee's work-life balance too.
yeah, like especially if you're like a working parent
Yeah.
and like daycare. I mean, I don't have a child, I don't have to pay for daycare, but it's expensive.
Right.
Yeah.
And if you can, work from home like 2-3 days out of the week, then like that's gonna
Only have to get a nanny twice.
exactly, that's gonna help
Yeah.
with cost effectiveness, and it's gonna help our society, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I've always thought, just with the career ideas that I've always had, that it would always kind of be a job where, regardless if COVID had happened or not, it would have been kind of like a half and half, work half the time from home, half the time in an office. Or maybe that's just what I thought would be ideal for me. But now I think that that's going to be more of an option.
Yeah.
It's more of like a definite thing at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see where companies go with that. And I feel like there's some companies that might just be fully just work from home all the time.
How do you guys feel about that? I know a lot of people have mixed feelings about that.
I'd like the half and half. I don't want to stay
Yeah.
home all the time. I know people that work from home all the time and they just like find any reason they can to get out of their house. And I don't want to have, like, when I own a house or, even my first apartment or something like that, I don't want to have that be my association with the place that I sleep and I eat and all that. It's just, I don't want to be trying to leave it constantly. It's like, I want that to be home base. I want that to be where I go to relax from the long days that I have.
Yeah, I
So,
agree. And
yeah.
I like really miss my commutes into the city. And at first, when we were working from home, I felt the pressure of my job on me. So like I was very, very productive, and to the point where I didn't know, okay, when is the time to get off of my laptop? Like I was just on my laptop all the time trying to make sure that I kept my job. But now I feel less motivated because I'm just so like I'm just stuck in the same place at the same time. Where you're right, John, like everything I do is in the same place. Like my desk and my bed are in the same room. As so my room is what's supposed to be like my relaxed me time, but it hasn't really been that way. So I just went, like I've been getting out and going to the library or like working on campus just to get out. And I've the productivity that I've gotten out of my schoolwork and my work has just been so much better since just leaving the apartment and just getting out, like doing work in a different space.
Yeah, definitely. I think for us as well, I mean, we're all in the communications field. We're all working with, writing, creating, doing design stuff. That's a lot of stuff that you can do easily from home. So I think that like having a hybrid thing with at least our careers, I mean, there's some that you need to actually be at a place, or some that you don't need to at all, and you can just be home all the time. But I think for us, a hybrid situation would be much more ideal.
Yeah. Like I miss giving presentations in person rather than over Zoom.
Yeah.
I feel that. Yeah.
I despise doing screen sharing just because it's something always happens with my computer when I need to, and it's just like,
right.
It's so nerve-wracking when you have to share your screen.
Yeah.
It's also like, oh, well, you're also gonna see I was looking on Pinterest at,
I will
recipes.
like purposely make sure that there's no other tabs up just in case.
Yeah, exactly.
or like you're gonna see my, incredibly messy desktop where I have assignments
right.
everywhere.
Yeah.
Like, don't judge me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do think that a hybrid situation would be much better for people, at least in our field.
Mhm.
And I can see that happening, honestly. Like I can see, depending on the company, but I was looking at a poll on LinkedIn that someone posted about this, and a lot of people were saying that they would prefer something hybrid. Although a lot of people also said that they would like to just continue just working from home. So I guess it's whatever your preference is.
Yeah.
Everybody's got a preference for it. Just personally, I couldn't do that. I couldn't be
I
at home all the
couldn't.
time.
I've been doing it pretty much for a year now, and it just drives me insane. Like I just miss being with people, going out to lunch with coworkers, and
Yeah.
Mhm.
yeah.
I know, like, I'm going into like advertising. I want to work in an advertising agency. And for those of you who don't know, agencies are it's a creative spot. Like, it's like they're weird, they're
Very
funky,
collaborative.
it's
Yeah.
very collaborative. And that's something that like I was so excited to enter my career and like work in an agency, be able to like sit on. I know people joke like, it's like a lot of not downtime, but it's like very relaxed and chill because you have couches and foosball tables when you think of like an advertising agency. But that's because it like helps get the creative juices flowing.
Mhm.
And that's something I was like so excited for. So I want to go into an office because I want that experience, but
I think it'll get there. I definitely
so.
can see it being
Even
more
if we have to
hybrid.
wear masks, I'm cool with masks.
100%.
Like,
Yep.
I think I rock the mask. I do get the mask, like acne.
I'd get tested.
Exactly. I get tested. Like, I'm cool.
Yeah.
I don't care. If I can be in person, I will get tested. I will wear the masks. Like,
Mhm.
I want to be in person.
I hope we can look back on this video in a few months and get some of these answers we've been asking.
Yeah.
So stay tuned for the next few months.
Yeah.
We'll answer these videos.
And I'm not sure if Temple's doing any other career fairs this year, but we should definitely keep our listeners in the loop if there are.
I know Klein College, they're probably not going to do because that's like what just happened
Right,
was
the big
like their
one.
big one. But
Yeah.
I know Temple University, like the career center for Temple, they do big ones like all the time. So
Mhm.
I'm sure,
Cool. Yeah, we'll post
keep you guys
about
update
that.
if we see anything.
Yeah, we'll keep everybody updated on anything we know that's going on, because I mean that's kind of the purpose of this. We're all college students, and we're all
Mhm.
we all want to keep you all updated, give you tips and tricks. That's sort of the thing that we're doing here, and as much as possible. I mean, I'm going to be graduating soon, so
I know, and in person,
Yeah.
are you excited?
yeah, I'm very excited. But yeah,
Awesome.
I'd like to give you advice as a college student, and then maybe afterwards as a graduate.
Yeah,
Recent grad, yes.
definitely.
Yep. Yeah.
All
Well,
right.
I think that's a good place to end.
I think it is.
Been a
All
good
right,
show.
everybody. Thank you very much again for listening to the Hot
Oh,
Mess
wait,
Pod.
one thing.
Okay.
We're now on Apple Music.
Yes. We're on Apple Music.
We are a 3 streaming podcast. So you can check us out now on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Music at the Hot Mess Podcast.
You might have to do some digging on Apple, but we are there, I swear. Maybe I can get a link to our podcast and put it in the bio.
Yeah, we'll link
for the
it on
Instagram.
our Instagram and our link tree. But now you have no excuse. You Apple users, no excuse.
That's
Check
true.
out our podcast.
No excuse. We're watching. We can
No
see those numbers.
excuse.
All right. Well, I think this is a great place to end.
All right, everybody. Thank you again for listening to the Hot Mess Podcast. I am your host, John Fay, with Jordan Ezell and Allison Zilbowski. Check us out on Apple Podcasts now, and we will catch you on the next episode.
Bye,
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.